So, for just a moment, there was quiet. Imagine a week of rest, of respite, in this high-stakes, fancy port city hotel. But for a fellowship that's been touched by prophecy, one that's haunted by the smell of the apocalypse, well, peace is really just the breath you take before you take the plunge. And as we're about to see, that plunge was coming, and it was coming fast.
And just like that, the quiet shattered. This one single, chilling thought, it just hissed across a psychic link from some unknown horror, and it was a signal that their rest was absolutely over. You know, it wasn't just a statement, it was a threat. It was this terrible promise of what was coming. The apocalypse wasn't just knocking on the door anymore. It was speaking to them directly.
But look, this calm, however short it was definitely hard-won. After a completely nightmarish rescue mission where they battled a cultist who tapped their allies inside magical paintings, yeah, you heard that right. The heroes were finally actually reunited in the big port city of Zarford. For the first time in a very long time, pretty much all the Chosen Ones were in one place.
So their sanctuary for the week was a place called the Gilded Galleon. You know, a spot for high-stakes gambling and nobility. But all the silk sheets and fancy meals, they didn't offer any real comfort. As the days started to tick by, this agitation just grew within the group. They knew they were burning through precious time while the demon Gormak was out there ravaging the world. This wasn't a vacation. It was the dead calm right before a world-ending storm. And what a group we're talking about here. 11 strong. It's a mix of the core party and the allies they had just yanked out of a living nightmare. You've got the main party, Bip, Welsies, Athnamis, Aaron, and Debbie, and then their allies, both old and new, Kolkita, Zora, and the ones they just freed, Hal, Tucker, and Jebediah. 11 souls standing against the end of everything, though, as you can see, one of them is still missing. And the road that got them here? Man, it was paved with some serious horrors. Back in Mistwood Vale, they had to face the Watcher and its creepy, featureless minions in this fog that felt like it was alive. Then, on a recon mission to Duskmere, they discovered a soul-crushing truth. The prophecy they'd been following. It wasn't to stop the demon Gormak, it was to release him. And most recently, they fought their way through those painted prisons in Zarford. With every step they take, the abyss just gets darker and deeper. And just as the Fellowship was starting to feel the heavy weight of just sitting around, the abyss stared right back. The visions began. And these weren't dreams. They were sharp, terrifying, undeniable glimpses into the forces that were lined up against them. The apocalypse was no longer some abstract threat. It now had a face, and hands, and eyes.
So the first vision, it yanks them all the way to the frozen north. There, on this ridge of pure obsidian, stands this man-shaped horror, just completely covered in winter bindings. Its arms are stretched out wide like it's embracing the storm, just a chilling silhouette against the snow. This was the mouth of Gormak. And its weapon wasn't a sword, it was words. With this booming voice, it just preached Gormak's return. And as it chanted this mantra over and over, an entire village down below started to echo it, their own wills just gone. The creature literally consumes the living and then regurgitates them as hollowed, these mindless shadow soldiers for its growing army.
You see, this general's power isn't just physical. It's deeply psychological. The mouth can turn entire towns, entire populations, into a mindless, chanting army of shadows with nothing more than a repeated phrase. That's a threat you can't just fight with swords and spells.
Then the vision just snaps, and they're back in a familiar, dreaded place. The mist-choked forests of Mistwood. Only now the fog is thicker, like it's choking the very sun out of the sky. Deep inside a hidden cave, surrounded by magical gear and potion tables, another one of Gormak's generals is hard at work.
And the identity of this general makes the threat deeply, deeply personal. It's a beholder, the Eye of Gormak. It wasn't just getting ready for some distant war. It was actively working to rip a hole in the fabric between worlds. And the worst part? It saw them. It recognized the heroes from their last fight and spoke these words directly to them, turning this global crisis into a direct, chilling promise.
This is what really reveals the true nature of their enemy. It's not some distant, faceless evil. The Eye is a genius monster, a magical scientist in a hidden lab, and it knows exactly who they are. It's waiting for them. The hunt has already started.
The third vision threw them straight into fire and ash. They found themselves in Ashwillow, a town literally carved into the side of an active volcanic chain.
a port for the world's most hardened pirates and soldiers. And this town, it had a new leader.
This is the brutal mantra of the Hand of Gormak, a massive Goliath leader decked out in full armor. As he held a broken man by the neck, ready to execute him, he shouted this to the crowd, and the entire town roared it right back. Loyalty is taken. This wasn't a kingdom. It was a weaponized personality cult.
So here, the strategy is totally different. Where the mouth corrupts minds and the eye tears at reality itself, the hand builds a physical army. He commands a force of ruthless killers, ruling not through magic, but through pure, brutal strength and fear. 3 generals, 3 completely different, world-ending threats.
But the onslaught wasn't over, not even close. After seeing the generals, the visions turned into pleas for help. The world wasn't just showing them the threats anymore, it was crying out, pulling them into 2 different, equally desperate directions.
So, on one front, you have a direct personal plea. Their missing friend, the Dragonborn Azuriel, manages to make a telepathic link. He's badly hurt, hiding in a cave on the Fire Islands, and he's being hunted. On the other front, a global crisis. The portal gates back in Dawnmere are failing. The Jarl warns them they have weeks, maybe less, before they totally collapse and unleash Gormak's full power. So what do? Save your friend, or try to save the world?
And this brings us right to the core dilemma, doesn't it? 3 horrific generals raising armies and tearing holes in reality, a friend bleeding out in a cave, and the main gateway keeping the Demon Lord locked up is about to shatter? What can a handful of heroes possibly do against all of that all at once?
And in that moment, standing in the fancy halls of their temporary sanctuary, the truth settled on them like a heavy shroud. No one else was coming. No armies, no kings, nobody. They alone stood at the edge of the abyss, and they were the only ones there to look into it. They realized these visions weren't a prophecy of what will be, but a glimpse of a future if it's left unchecked, and they absolutely refused to let that stand.
And so a decision was made. They would not wait to be hunted. They would not huddle together and wait for the world to end. They were going to take the fight to the enemy. A desperate, incredibly audacious plan was forged. They were going to split up.
Okay, so here's the plan. It's a 3-pronged strategy to fight a war on multiple fronts. First, the rescue force. Kolkita, Jebediah, Tucker, and Howl are heading to the Fire Islands to save Azuriel. Second, an intelligence force. Bip and Debbie are staying in Zarford to lock down their base and track a crucial magical item. And finally, the assault force. Welsis, Aaron, Optimus, and Zora will use a secret portal to launch a surprise attack right at the hand in his volcanic fortress of Ashwillow.
I mean, it is a bold, almost reckless plan. They've chosen to fight 3 wars at the same time, splitting their already outnumbered forces. And this raises the ultimate question. By splitting their path, have they actually forged a way to victory? Or have they simply chosen 3 different ways to die? The bells are about to toll, and we're about to find out for whom.